Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Andrea Moss, and I'm excited to welcome you to this introduction to the Workplace Personality Inventory for Pharmacy students. I know that's an iffy day for a lot of you who are in Hurricane Florence's path, so just know that our thoughts and prayers for safety are with you during this time. And just a couple of housekeeping notes. We'll do our best to save a few minutes at the end of today's sessions for Q&A, but please don't hesitate to use the chat box to send us your questions during the presentation. Cindy Adonis, our Senior Product Manager, will be fielding those questions. Also, about midway through the session, Kama will reference the Quick Start Guide for schools. I'll post that link in the chat box so that you can easily access the PDF. As we have just 30 minutes, I want to get right to the presentation. And with that, I'm happy to introduce our presenter, Kama Dodge. Kama is an industrial organizational psychologist specializing in assessment design and validation here with Pearson Talent Lens. She supports global product development by designing and conducting research studies focused on product efficacy and long-term customer success. She's a data visualization enthusiast and has earned a Tableau Qualified Associate certification through her passion for conveying statistics in an interactive way. She completed her master's degree at the University of Northern Iowa and doctoral program at the University of Akron, and she lives in Bloomington, Minnesota. Kama, we're so happy to have you and turn the time over to you.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Andrea, and for all of you joining us during busy back-to-school and apparently hurricane season. As Andrea mentioned, I'm an IO psychologist, and I'm not an expert in pharmaceutical curriculum. In fact, I can't even pronounce most of the advanced courses you teach, like pharmacogenetics or pharmacokinetics or whatever those are. My expertise lies in helping organizations identify top talent for retail, research, or hospital-based settings where graduates from your program will eventually be employed. And after struggling through a semester of OCHEM, we definitely know that I don't have what it takes to be a pharmacist. But when it comes to identifying whether your students are career ready, facilitating those development conversations between your students and their faculty advisors, and growing their soft skills needed for school and job success, it's definitely good to have Pearson on your side. So just a quick agenda. Today's 30-minute webinar will focus primarily on the implementation and administration of the Workplace Personality 2 for pharmacy students. First, I'll present a recap description of what the assessment measures and the quick facts about the test to supplement the information already provided to you at the AACP annual conference, and these resources are also available online. Then I'll briefly describe the three most frequently used use cases for the assessment to help you understand how most colleges are using this tool. But we'll really spend the majority of the time really at the brass tacks level. How do we make this happen at a very operational level of how to register, assign the test, view and share the results. And I'll, of course, close the webcast with some times for Q&A. So please feel free to send in those questions as long as they don't have anything to do with advanced therapeutics, and Cindy and myself will be able to help you out with those. So let's get started here. So I think it's interesting to say, you know, why is the Workplace Personality Inventory for pharmacy students a good solution? So kind of a quick history here. For several years, the AACP PCAT Advisory Committee has explored different ways to supplement the academic and cognitive elements of the PCAT. Specifically, they wanted a tool that would reflect the characteristics, habits of minds deemed important for success, not only for pharmacy school, but also in professional practice. And those 6 characteristics are identified here that you can see on the slide. And since then, Pearson and the AACP PCAT Advisory Committee have worked together to really develop this customized version of the Workplace Personality Inventory for pharmacy students as a tool to measure some of these desired characteristics. So just a quick history there. And I don't want to spend too much time on the kind of the cool research and the development work that we've had done in the past, but just to show you what some of the scales are that are measured in this assessment. So really coming from the industry side, industry leaders agree that pharmacy students' education goes well beyond the general academic ability or scientific knowledge. Those interpersonal and intrapersonal characteristics are crucial to their success, both in school and later on in the workplace while interacting with patients or other team members on their team. Aligned to the Department of Labor's ONET work styles, the Workplace Personality Inventory measures students for all these characteristics, and a fake-resistant, unlikely virtue scale to identify students have presented an overly favorable profile. So taking a look here, you see the different work styles that are, really defined and measured by the Department of Labor to really kind of keep us aligned into what we know to be in demand when students leave university. So just a quick shot of these sample items. As shown by these sample items, students see a series of behavioral statements with a 4-point Likert response style scale, and they attest to how well that statement describes their typical work or school behaviors. And these examples come from self-control, attention to detail, and the bottom one is rule following scales. And it shows you, this is not a reading intensive or academic intensive test. The reading level's at about 8th grade. And so we use both negative and positively worded statements. They're also known as reverse scoring. So as you take a look at those, certainly you would expect somebody who's going to be employed in a pharmaceutical setting to be able to say, hey, I remain calm in stressful situations. And that's appropriate for both, finals week when you have papers and tests going on, or if you're in the workplace and you have, multiple customers waiting, or you have a really intensive insurance question, or any of the kinds of other activities that you do in an applied setting. So both for school and work, these are really good statements that say this will help us identify characteristics that our pharmacists need. So just a few more quick facts about the test. It takes about 30 to 35 minutes to complete. There are 192 items, which that gives you about 10 to 12 items per scale, which gives you high reliability. For the assessment, you're given both the profile report, which is kind of a snapshot of scores, or the development report is also available. Interesting for the research and development work that we've done, what we're doing is we're benchmarking your students against a sample of fourth-year pharmacy students, and that was part of all the R&D work that went into having a valid, reliable assessment for you. Quick cost, it's $20 per assessment, $15 if you're doing bulk ordering. So if you're purchasing more than 2 for a school, that would be $15 an assessment. And that is kind of the history of the test. If you want to learn more about the test, we have tons of resources online. We're happy to talk through some of those, but really want to get into it, like I said before, the brass tacks. So on the line today, we could tell that we had a lot of different people. So I wanted to give kind of the traditional use cases that we have. And first and foremost, I want to say, by early adulthood, personality becomes relatively stable characteristic, making it unlikely that your quietest student will become the class clown during the program. And although major life events like brain surgery can alter an individual's personality, the most practical intervention focuses on changing a student's behavior, not changing their personality. You may never turn that student with low innovation into a creative solution generator, but you can help them understand opportunities to innovate and how to balance that kind of conventional thinking with more novel thinking. So primary use is going to be student development, help them to understand where their strengths and weaknesses and opportunities for development are, and really facilitate that student growth by making an action plan. This is something where we love. I know I have several academic advisors on the line today. So really facilitating those growth conversations with, here are specific things to focus on to develop with. We can also use this kind of assessment for program admission, again, because we've done the validity evidence and we've done the research behind using it for that kind of a use case. So whether your applicant is replete with these highly qualified students or struggling to fill a cohort, the Workplace Personality Inventory provides objective feedback about a student's potential. And while reference letters from faculty members or internships, supervisors may testify to the student's strength of character, the WIPY also provides this information in reference to a student's likelihood for success. And certainly factors like GPA and PCAT scores are valuable tools for understanding the ability of a student. The Workplace Personality Inventory really supplements this information by measuring additional characteristics that also impact student success. And just like employers know that having, that PharmD degree and teamwork skills are important, I know many of you in the audience today appreciate that whole person evaluation requires looking beyond those traditional application materials. And while interview scores and reference letters are subjective, the WIPY adds some objectivity to the student profile of success. So the test can be used for program admission if it's something you want to consider or really use to kind of drive interview questions. That's an acceptable use of the assessment. And last, because I saw we had some deans and academic advisors, so when it comes to program evaluation, that is another use case for the assessment. So finally, the workplace personality inventory may be used to evaluate program effectiveness, and that's really by meaningfully investing in the development of students' soft skills prior to research. For most major assessment companies demonstrate that both cognitive and soft skills play an important role in student progress and program success. And so for a few examples, this isn't just Pearson that would say, you need to measure both soft skills and cognitive skills. You have ACT's Holistic Framework, College Board's Readiness System, ETS Success Navigator, and of course our own Pearson Conley Readiness Index in MyLab. So measuring both kind of the soft skills and the cognitive ability really help you to predict, I think, things that will be important, and whether that's graduation rates or course grades, their ability to pass the certification exam, all of those things, we want to best be able to predict student success in those areas. And so considering both their PCAT scores and academic credentials as well as their soft skills. So those were just really three kind of quick use cases. And I did have a poll question in here. It looks like we're going to be a little bit short on time. So just kind of chat at me. It'll give you a chance to kind of interact a little bit. So I gave you three use cases: student development, program admission or student selection, or program evaluation. So use your chat box and kind of help me understand what seems to be the most likely use for you with the workplace personality inventory. If you'll use your chat box, that will give me a little bit of a better field to go on.
Tana, the slide prior to this one is the live poll, if you want to go back there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get that in there. Sorry, you could use the live poll.
No worries. No worries. Thanks. I put it in there late. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. So now you get to interact with the live poll. So take a minute. And so which purpose seems most likely to use the workplace personality inventory for students? Student development, student selection, or program evaluation? It looks like from the people who have responded, thank you, it looks like student development seems to be the most, which is kind of what we anticipated. We definitely value that development activity. From what I'm hearing from the field is it can be challenging to fill a full cohort, and you're not getting the scores of applications that you may have in the past. So definitely wanting to make sure you're developing students to be the great pharmacists that your programs have the reputation for doing may require some additional student development work. So I'm glad to see that there's a lot of people using the assessment in that way. So the rest of the time, and please feel free to pop in the chat box with questions. I'm really talking brass tacks here at an operational level to go through the administration, and it will help, as Andrea said, to really kind of follow along with the quick start guide, make notes on that. The goal is we're not disappearing. If you ever have any questions, Cindy, myself, we have our customer service team are happy to answer any questions, but I just kind of wanted to show you how easy this is to do. So the first step for a school, whether you're using this for development or selection or program evaluation, is to get registered for the assessment. So it takes about 5 minutes. There are a lot of questions. So really you'll go to the website that you'll see, and it will give you a link right here at the bottom. I have kind of the yellow arrow pointing. Click right there to register for an administrative access. It'll ask you those registration questions, address information, and really that's for test security purposes. We don't want everybody registering to see the items on the assessment. So it takes, on the Quick Start Guide, we say it takes 2 days. If you're ready to start testing today, if you give us a call, we can approve your registration faster. But just knowing that that comes into our customer service team. You'll receive an email that'll verify you'll receive an email, system-generated email to verify your email and set up your username and password. And as soon as that registration has been approved, you'll receive that notification and you're ready to start testing. So after you click that link, you'll see that user registration. You get to pick your username, enter your email, and that kind of information. It'll ask you for address, and that's, again, we're using that information to verify your account. If you're at a pharmacy school, I'm sure you wouldn't want somebody who's not at the school with you running up your bill. So that's really why we collect that information. And please feel free. I know we've got about 15 minutes left, and I wanted to leave time for questions. So since I know we had some registrants who joined us from Canada, and I think data security is important to all of us. So I put in the slide to kind of give you some background information. When we're collecting, especially student information, first name, last name, email, we don't collect date of birth or social security number or anything like that. But really, we treat your email address as a bit of data that needs to be protected. We don't allow just anybody to access reports. All of that is controlled by whomever you want to share those reports with. And we don't share, of course, data from one pharmacy school to another. And really all when it comes to compliance and encryption at rest and all of that data material that I know you care about, that we really are in compliance with some of the highest standards for when it comes to how data is encrypted and stored and accessed. So just a little bit about data there. So after you have gotten registered for your account, you'll be able to purchase inventory. To do that, you'll just log into the account. Something I recommend doing is kind of bookmarking that email that you received for us so you don't lose track of what your account was or your password. Of course, you can always retrieve your password, but it's good just to bookmark this page, and that's where you'll go into. So you'll go in, you'll log into your account, and you'll see in the top menu bar, I have it red boxed up there at the top, where you'll see the catalog, and that's where you'll purchase inventory just by adding it to the cart if you've ever done any online shopping. Hopefully you've done less online shopping than I've done. You'll add it to your cart and check out. This kind of standard method here is kind of set up if you're going to use credit card payment. If you don't have a company card or a school card, you can, if you'd rather receive an invoice to pay through your purchasing department. That's certainly something we can set up. If you just give us a call, we can switch you over to that purchase order or electronic funds transfer. You can't pay us in Bitcoin, but we'll figure it out on how you want to purchase inventory. This the Quick Start Guide is also going through as if you're purchasing via credit card, but there are other options that are available. And really, it's just about following those on-screen prompts on how to purchase inventory. Inventory does not expire. So if you're looking, I mean, it costs the same amount. If you're purchasing, 2 or more, it's $15. So if you know you're going to use this test year on year and you don't want to go through the purchasing process multiple times, you can buy as much inventory as you need, and then you'll be set. So this process is always the same. After you've got through the purchasing process, right away you'll have your inventory available for assignment. Again, I'm referring to this top row that you'll see once you log into your account, and you'll go to Assign. When you go to Assign, there's just tons of options, and really however you want to do it, do what's best for you or what's easiest for you. You can assign tests individually. If you know you have 100 different students and you don't want to enter 100 different emails, the batch upload feature is something you can do. You do have the option of creating a custom URL, so it doesn't matter. I always warn people about this, though. If every time that link gets clicked, you get billed. So just make sure that you're kind of considering the pros and cons with both. But the goal is to make administration or assignment as easy for you as possible. On the Quick Start Guide, we also talk about how you can create a group. And for my data junkies out there with me, sometimes it's really great if you want to do aggregate level analysis. If you want to look across faculty advisors, what work style scores you see. If you want to compare your fall 2018 admission class to a previous year, it's great to create groups to do that. And that's something that you can do at assignment. So going through the assignment process here, I've given a couple screenshots. This one is, I think, most useful if you're assigning for an individual. Say you have an incoming class of 5 people and you want to do that assignment at an individual level. Again, referring to the Quick Start Guide here, you select that assignment. You hit the plus sign next to your workplace personality inventory. Hit continue. It's going to ask you for their name, first name, last name, and email address. At that point, you can decide who they want to share reports with, which I'll get onto on the report slide here. I'm trying to be sensitive of time, but give you the information you need here. So you also have, so that's assignment for an individual. If you're saying, oh, I've got 20 candidates, I don't want to enter 20 emails, or I might have a typo or something like that, a good option is to do the batch upload. which is, it's a CSV file. It looks like, an Excel spreadsheet where first column is first name, second column is last name, third column is email address. So you do, when you go to the original, I'm going to go back a couple slides here. You can see here when you go to assignment, it'll allow you to do the batch upload. And that'll be really convenient for you if you have, I really say, more than 5 students. It's very simple to do, where you upload your candidates, you download the template and upload it with it populated with your student information. And that way it automatically will assign those tests as you go through. That is all I'm going to say to. I just want to get quickly to the reporting options. And as you can see here, I told you you've got a sample profile report. Again, it's basic scores and description for a snapshot. For admissions considerations, that's something where that one is really written for administrators, for advisors. It gives you that quick glance at scores. That's something we didn't really write that with a student in mind. It's not like we're going to tell you don't share that information with the student, but certainly we intended the development report. It's written in a more kind of student-friendly language, so you get the description, you get mentoring tips for student growth. So you get both reports for the same price. So if you're going to share a report with the student, recommending that you would share the development report. It just gives you more background and information. And then I also, when it comes to sharing, and I apologize, the Quick Start Guide does a good job at kind of going through these sequentially. When you go to assign a test, it gives you a box right there on the screen. If you scroll down after first name, last name, email address, it asks, do you want to share this with the candidate or the student? And you can say yes. That means as soon as they're done finishing the assessment, they will receive the report by default. You can also add additional people. So you can say, I want to share this report with the student as well as their faculty advisor. So you just put their faculty advisor's email in here and hit add email. You can share it with yourself. You can share it with the dean. There's no limit to how many people you share the reports with. I did because I'm in data, so I said just be very clear and transparent with students about who will have access to their results. This is somebody's personality, so that's not their medical information, but I always think it pays to be very forthcoming and transparent about who's going to have access to the results. If it's going to be considered for admissions information, then students deserve to know that's how their results will be used. So that's what I have on report sharing. And also I want to put this out. We didn't really talk about it in the Quick Start Guide, but if you're using this for program evaluation, just know you will have the capability of exporting the data. So if you don't really care to look through all of the profile reports or development reports, you can download your data via data exports, so we can give you those permissions that will allow you to really just kind of look at scores. It doesn't give you any narrative. It just gives you the percentile scores. But it's something convenient if you're using this for program evaluation. So just last thing, I tried to keep that as quick as possible so I could leave time for questions here. If there are extra things, you say, oh, well, we have something kind of similar. I want to add my logo. I want to change the email template that says, hey, we want you to take this test, and I want to make that my own language. If you are tired of receiving kind of those system emails that say somebody's report are now available, there's all sorts of things that we can turn on, turn off, and customize for you so that you're getting the information that you need. I've left as much time as I could for questions here. It looks like we've got about 5 minutes left, so plenty of time for Q&A.
Comments so far, I don't see any, so that means you did an excellent job. What about kind of next steps for people if they want to learn more?
Oh, great question. Thank you, Andrea. And don't be shy on the questions. I feel like I went through that really quickly, and it's possible the amount of caffeine that I've had today. So a good next step is, if you're not for sure if this is going to work for you, is to take a look at the sample materials that we have online. We've gone into much more description of the assessment itself, how it can be used. We also have sample reports that are available. So if you just kind of want to see, what am I getting for this $15? What is a student going to get? So you can really go through that report information and say how or when. And then it's really, working with your team and saying, can I schedule, some testing here at the beginning of October? So we'll have all of the testing done, and that really, when you're halfway through the semester and students have some course grades, they've done some tests, then they can think about more of the development work that they need to do. So that's really kind of getting ready for that implementation piece, is deciding when do we want to start testing, who's going to have results, and kind of getting your governance piece. When it really comes to registering and assigning assessments, all of that can be done, in a day. So when you're ready and you have across the board, you know how the faculty will use this information, or you know how advising will use this information, registering and assigning tests, that part is very quick to do, as you can see how quickly I walked through that.
Carmen, we have someone asking about how to access the sample reports.
Absolutely. So those are available. You can click on the talentlens.com/WIPY-Pharm, and that will take you to the sample reports, both the profile and development report. And so that way you can see the content that's included, and just kind of the language that we use. So we're talking about, instead of saying, like, if I was using this kind of an assessment, I would say talk to your manager. On the WIPY for Pharm, we always say, talk to your faculty advisor, talk to a mentor in the program, and that way it's not just saying this is all work-based context. It's really what resources do you have available to you as a student, and where can you get developmental assistance from? Where can you get mentoring and supervision and facilitate those growth conversations? Who would be good resources to use for that? And that's what we specifically asked them in that report. In that development is identifying, hey, I know I'm not as strong in this area as I need to be. Where can I get additional resources from? And so really going through that to identify additional resources.
Right now, I don't see any additional questions.
Okay, well, I'm going to just go ahead and wrap it up, and just to say, I hope this webinar, people were quiet today. Hopefully you're enjoying lunches. But I hope this webinar was informative and inspirational for all of you. I know implementing something new in the middle of your hectic schedules can be a challenge, and to help you along the way, we have staff available to walk through step-by-step online resources and now this recorded webinar to make implementing this tool for your students easy and cost-effective. And more than an infomercial, I hope that I provided you, a good snapshot of the research, the validity, and the kind of different demands that we see across the pharma industry for work styles measured by the Workplace Personality Inventory for Pharmacy students. And hopefully you'll be able to begin testing today to begin really developing your students and committing to growth in these areas. So thank you so much for joining.
Carmen, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good rest of your afternoon.